Story 1. That gum stays in your stomach for 7 years. I have always wondered why it is the one outlier among all other substances. Story 2. What is the Easter Bunny? Bunnies don't lay eggs, and a giant bunny is terrifying. Why did adults make us think it was real? Also, the original bone collector and the tooth fairy. Story 3. Including eggs in the dairy group of the 4 food groups has led to some confusion. To this day, there are people who believe that eggs are related to milk. Story 4. It is illegal to turn on the car light when someone is driving. I am just trying to play my Game Boy. Story 5. Teachers always said I wouldn't have a calculator with me at all times. The joke is on them. Now I can find their obituary and use a calculator to figure out how old they were when they died, all on the same device. Story 6. An obese man bearing gifts could somehow fit down chimneys and visit all the houses in the world in one night. Story 7. There was a Canada goose in the cupboards protecting the sugary treats. I was scared of those birds because I was bitten as a small child. My mom made it even more real by shaking a goose call whenever I came near any cupboards. Story 8. If you swallow gum, it stays in your stomach for 7 years. Meanwhile, my stomach was apparently a time capsule. Story 9. Superstitions. Do not walk under a ladder. It is dangerous. Do not break a glass mirror. A parent will have to clean it up. Do not put shoes or hats on the table. It shows a lack of manners. If you spill salt, it is likely in a glass container, and parents do not want to clean that up. Story 10. Knowledge is power, and the truth shall set you free. I pursued knowledge and truth, and now I have a master's degree and a well-informed understanding of how troubled we are politically, economically, and environmentally. I know how we got here and why it is nearly impossible to change it. Learning the truth has left me feeling powerless and terrified. Story 11. Lemmings regularly commit self-harm. Disney invented this concept and continues to reference it in their movies for some reason. Story 12. I have a clear memory of my mother telling me, "Your father is allowed to say bad words because he has done his military service." I don't remember how old I was, but I know I was old enough to understand that she had just made it up on the spot. I completed my military service later and now feel free to express myself however I choose. Story 13. Every morning at 8 a.m., you must stand and pledge your allegiance to a flag. Otherwise, you will be sent to the office. Story 14. You will ruin your eyes sitting too close to the television. My entire day is spent sitting a foot in front of a screen now. Story 15. From someone from Texas, it's illegal to pick bluebonnets. I had teachers and everyone I knew telling me this. Story 16. You will be using cursive in everyday life, so you might as well learn it when you are 9 years old. I am 32, and the only time I use cursive is for my signature, which is often a scribbled mess. Story 17. In elementary school, we all believed there was a permanent file that would follow us around our entire lives. A job we applied for as adults would see it and the papers we wrote in first grade. However, only specific papers would be included, and no one knew which papers were in there. Story 18. An invisible man who is always watching you loves you so much that he will punish you for all eternity if you do not tell him you love him back. Story 19. That everything is going to be okay. It's not. Whether it is okay or not, you just have to move on, headstrong, and weather it. Story 20. I'm a girl, and girls do not only need to learn to cook, clean, and make a man happy. What a load of nonsense. I'm glad I accepted that as a challenge and not as truth. Story 21. 1. The cows on the hillside had 2 legs shorter on one side, allowing them to balance on the hillside. If I could sprinkle salt on a bird's tail, it couldn't fly. Grandma needed the kids to collect snails so the spaghetti would have meat in it. Story 22. That grade school detentions and suspensions will follow me into adulthood and my career on my permanent record. Story 23. Great white sharks do not prefer cold water. I live on the coast in the Northeast. I'm not sure if it was a misconception, as many people believed this in the past. I'm just happy I never believed any of them. Story 24. A snake told the first and only woman alive to eat the forbidden fruit. resulting in her banishment from the Garden of Eden. Noah's Ark is strange as well. I could continue, but there is a burning tree waiting to talk to me. Story 25. I don't know if anyone else has been told this, but my mom always said that drinking milk when you're sick creates more mucus and that you shouldn't do it. I was sick a few weeks ago and wanted milk, so I decided to search online to see if it was true. I found that it was not. All it does is provide much-needed vitamin D and hydration. It only took me 30 years to figure that out. Story 26. Neglected to inform us of a 1,500-year-old conflict between Islam and Christianity. The events of September 11, 2001, served as a reminder. Story 27. Covering my head with my desk or science textbook would help me in the event of a tornado or nuclear blast. Story 28. You must wait after eating to swim to avoid cramps. I believe this myth was created to give parents a break from watching their children at the beach or swimming pool. Story 29. Tooth Fairy, Santa, Easter Bunny, and Michael Jackson had complex feelings about race and identity. The existence of a higher power is a widely debated topic. Story 30. A Latvian woman said her parents warned her that eating too much sugar could cause health issues. Story 31. There is an invisible man in the sky who knows everything you think and do and will judge you when you die. Story 32. My parents brought me to church, where they told me an invisible man lived in the sky, controlling everything. He would condemn me if I didn't follow his rules and reward me if I did. It turns out that the whole church experience was about being obedient to authority and had nothing to do with any real spiritual enlightenment. Story 33. Immaculate Conception for the Catholic students. I spent a few of my early years fearing that God could simply assign a baby to me if he chose me as the selected one. Story 34. My stepdad told my half-brother that wind turbines create wind when he was 4 to 5 years old and forgot to correct it, so my brother thought that was the case until his teens. Story 35. I would pout and stick out my bottom lip, and my dad would say, "Put that lip back in your face. A bird's going to poop on it." Story 36. My parents told me I came from the bush. They grew up in Jamaica. I always thought it was a joke about me being a wild child. It didn't click until I was much older. Story 37. There is no gravity in space, which particularly resonates with me. This is especially true when the teacher would immediately and unironically follow it up by stating that the planets are held in place by the sun's gravity. Story 38. There is an invisible man living in the sky who watches everything you do every minute of every day. He has a list of 10 specific things he does not want you to do, and if you commit any of these actions, he will send you to a special place of burning, smoke, torture, and anguish for you to suffer and scream forever. However, he loves you and somehow always needs money. He is all-powerful, all-present, all-knowing, and all-wise, yet he cannot manage money. Story 39. I grew up on a cattle farm, and my parents told me they could tell it was going to rain that day because the cows would lie down in the field. I asked them why half of the cows were standing while the other half were lying down, and they said there was a 50% chance of rain. Story 40. If you work hard, you will be able to own a home, live a comfortable life, and retire with savings at a reasonable age in the United States. Additionally, you will receive Social Security benefits. Story 41. The ice cream truck only plays music when it runs out of ice cream. It is a clever tactic to get kids to stop asking for ice cream. Story 42. It is illegal to turn the lights on in a car at night. If you swallow gum, it will not pass for 7 years. Do not swim after eating because you could get a cramp and risk drowning. Story 43. Some information about Samson and Delilah and him gaining strength from his long hair. Everything else I was taught about religion. Story 44. Not something we all were told, but my mother and godmother created a book on the rules of society and civilization with a page that clearly states that no person is allowed to be part of girl talk until they are 12 years old. Whenever my godmother would come over, she and my mother would hang out in the living room, and if I wanted to join them, they would say, "Page 236, which meant get out, kid. Mom needs a break to talk to grown-ups. I asked to see the book for years, and on my 12th birthday, they typed up a fake page from a book. ripped the edge to make it look like it had been torn out, and gave it to me. They probably should have continued the text on the backside of the paper if they wanted me to think there was any legitimacy to the page. As a mother now, I respect the creativity. Story 45. That college or university is a good investment in your future. It doesn't matter what degree you obtain because employers want to see that you have the capacity to learn. This obviously does not apply to specialized degrees. I graduated from college and have many friends who attended but did not graduate. I have worked with them to help find jobs, and we all earn roughly the same amount of money. Once you are employed, the employment record becomes the most important factor. I have even considered removing my education from my resume because it becomes irrelevant at that point. Additionally, there are instances where educated individuals are overlooked for positions because they are perceived as always looking for a better job. I have a friend with a doctoral degree who spent several years working at a retail store because he struggled to find a job where his doctorate was not viewed as a liability. Story 46. May all your deceased relatives watch over you and be aware of your actions. I believe it is simply meant to deter you from engaging in inappropriate behavior. Story 47. I feel like this story was told to me by my older brother, not a parent. I was told that our blood is blue until it touches air, and then it turns red. I also think the tooth fairy is a strange concept, but I love it. If you're going to lie to a child, it should be something unusual. Story 48. My parents let me believe I invented the ham sandwich and then told me that Subway stole my recipe. Story 49. That Jesus loves me and died for my sins. If I did not truly love Jesus, I would go to hell and burn in eternal torment. Happy Easter. Story 50. There was a chemical in the pool that turned blue when you urinated in it. I only learned this was not true last year, and I am 42 years old. Story 51. That a man in the sky created us, watches us all the time, and has a list of things we cannot do or he will punish us for eternity. Oh, and he loves us and enjoys when we sing songs about him. Story 52. My mom told me I would get sucked into the escalator if I didn't jump over the last step. It was only at 19 that my husband, who was then my boyfriend, asked me why I jumped off it like a child. Story 53. If I didn't go to bed, the Sandman would come and put me to sleep. I didn't know whether this meant he would sprinkle sand in my eyes to knock me out or if he would harm me. The thought of the Sandman sneaking up on me had the opposite effect of what it was supposed to do, which was to make me want to sleep. Instead, I was terrified thinking about it. Story 54. Anyone can be president, even me. However, there are some individuals who should not be president. Story 55. A giant rabbit will bring you candy if you color the eggs, and it is related to the resurrection of Jesus. Story 56. Not a strange lie, but I've learned that shoplifting is not a big deal at all. Remember all those public service announcements, cartoons, and sitcoms that depicted stealing and shoplifting as wrong, where you could be held accountable or even face serious trouble for it? Well, nowadays, as long as the theft is below $500, the police won't even bother investigating. And if you're under 18, it's just a slap on the wrist. No community service, no juvenile detention, nothing at all. Morally, yes, it's wrong and you shouldn't do it. How would you feel if it were your business? But as far as consequences go from shoplifting, it honestly seems negligible now. Story 57. The man in the white van will come and take you away. Fear-mongering was standard growing up in 1990s Ireland. It was effective too. Story 58. Don't look in the mirror at night because jinn will attack us. I believe in jinn, but I don't believe that looking in the mirror at night will bring them. Story 59. My parents claimed there were no meat zones in California, and I would get in trouble if I brought fast food burgers into them. Story 60. As a child, I was told that hearing the ice cream van's tune meant it was leaving and had run out of ice cream. That felt like child cruelty. Story 61. If you swallow gum, it stays in your stomach. If we sit too close to the television, we may lose our sight. Story 62. You will go blind, and you will grow hair on your palms from masturbating. If that were true, I would have gone blind long ago and have hairy palms. Story 63. Maybe not a lie exactly, but I feel like I was oversold on the dangers and frequency of dealing with quicksand. Story 64. Many kids are born with tails. When I was little, my mom told us that many kids were born with tails, and doctors cut them off shortly after birth. I researched it a few years ago and found that it does happen, but it is quite rare. Story 65. Eating carrots improves your eyesight. However, the belief that they can significantly enhance vision has been exaggerated, and it was propagated to distract the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Story 66. My grandmother told me as a child that rain was angels urinating on everyone. I was grossed out by rain for a long time after that. I don't care if it's coming from angels. I don't want to be urinated on. Story 67. If you eat healthy and exercise, you will always be healthy. This is not true. You can get sick at any time, even if you are the most fit person. You may experience any of the following conditions, but this is not an exhaustive list. Diabetes, if you have an issue with insulin. Heart defects or damage related to overexertion or stress. Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Rheumatoid arthritis. Undiagnosed degenerative eye diseases. Long COVID. Osteoarthritis. Kidney failure. Cancer. Making healthy choices is important, but the idea that you will always be healthy if you avoid cookies or cake and run a mile every day is completely misguided. Live your life and make healthy choices when possible, but also enjoy a cookie, pasta, or a day at home without working out to allow yourself to rest. Story 68. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never harm you. The tongue is a powerful weapon. It can either bring life or death. Story 69. I'm from the Netherlands. Sinterklaas is high on the list of strange stories we tell our kids. First, we have a television show that 2 weeks in advance presents a shallow narrative about the missing gifts, candy that cannot be produced, and Sinterklaas falling and breaking his leg. Yes, that was last year. They create panic among little kids, causing sleepless nights filled with crying. Then everything will be all right at the last moment, culminating in a live-action inauguration in all major cities, villages, and towns at the same time. Hundreds of thousands of kids will stand outside in the bitter winter cold or rain, waiting for an actor to arrive in a boat. This leads to 2 weeks of daily Sinterklaas updates and reminders to be nice or you won't get gifts, which concludes on December 5th. On that day, they receive gifts and an excess of candy, likely resulting in them feeling sick from the disappointing plastic toys once they are in hand. Story 70. I used to tell my son that his eyes changed colors when he was lying. He grew up to be a terrible liar. Story 71. Don't read in the dark. You'll ruin your eyes. One of the reasons I was terrified of needing glasses. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.